If you're into Scottish lairds who fish naked in streams and bookish heroines who just want to be left alone with their novels, today's episode is for you. I'm chatting with author Eloisa James about her new historical romance, Hardly a Gentleman. And let me tell you, there's an accidental marriage, he falls first, and a whole lot of kilty chaos. We're also going to be diving into the evolution of the romance genre, what has changed over the years, and why pirates may be a bit tricky to write these days. Also, if a stepback revival is on the horizon. Welcome to Reading Under the Covers, a romance novel podcast where we chat, fangirl, and maybe even swoon over our latest reads. I'm Francesca from Under the Covers Book Blog, and today I am so excited to be joined by none other than author Eloisa James. We're talking about her latest release, Hardly a Gentleman. This is book 2 in the Accidental Bride series. This one has a ruined heroine on the run, a grumpy Scottish laird who's unexpectedly half naked by a trout stream, and yes, some forced proximity, accidental marriage, and some truly delightful banter. Honestly, I'm here for it, so I can't wait to share that with you guys. Plus, we chat about how the romance genre has evolved over the decades, what's it like writing while being a Shakespeare professor, and the cover changes in historical romance and the romance genre in general. But before we get into all of that, if you've been looking at how the romance genre has changed and evolved over time and you are interested in a deeper dive, I've got a free series going on right now on our Substack all about the evolution of the romance genre over the decades. So we're talking books, tropes, covers, everything from bodice rippers all the way to the book talk era. I'll leave the link in the show notes. It is free to join our Substack and you'll get those delivered every week in your inbox. But without any more delays, let's get into the chat with Eloisa James. Welcome to Reading Under the Covers, Eloisa. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's so nice that you're here to talk about your new release, Hardly a Gentleman. It is the second. I mean, look at that beautiful cover.
We'll just show it again.
Yes. We're going to talk about covers in a little bit too. I have questions. So this is the second book in the Accidental Bride series. And I also wanted to talk to you about a bit of your career in general, because you are a trailblazer in the romance genre. You've been writing for such a long time. You're so successful at it, while you also juggle a very successful career besides this one. So get a little bit in all of the nitty gritty of that. So let's start with beginnings. Where did you actually fall in love with romance as a reader? Do you have a book that was your first book that you fell in love with, or anything like that?
Well, I was in a very literary household. My father's a poet, my mother's a writer. And so there were no romances anywhere to be found at all. But my grandmother had romances. So I really discovered them over there. But even I realized later that even in children's books like Charlotte's Web, like you probably remember Charlotte dies at the end, what really stuck with me is the fact that a boy invited Fern to go on the Ferris wheel with her. So even at that very young age, I was really focused on romance as opposed to death and sadness. So basically, then I discovered romance, and I used to go to the Carnegie Public Library. I'm a huge library supporter because my family didn't approve of romance and didn't approve of basically genre fiction. The library was my refuge. And the books I've discovered there have stayed with me ever since, and I love them. So there I
I
am.
love that story. Did you have one specifically that was like the
One
one you
specific
cherished?
romance? Well, there's a book called I Captured the Castle, which is by Dodie Smith, who wrote 101 Dalmatians.
Uh-huh.
And if you haven't read it, it is a wonderful romance. It's just fantastic. And it's not for children, it's for grown-ups. But it for me, that book showed me, hey, you can write, there can be a book that's not, it's not a Barbara Cartland, it's not exactly Harlequin. I love Harlequin Presents, but that wasn't where I was going to be writing. And that book kind of stands on this on the boundaries between all the rest of the kinds of books in the world and romance, and does a beautiful romance. So that's I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith.
Love
Everyone
that.
go out and read it.
Yes, absolutely. So you've also been an avid reader your whole life, basically, and a prolific romance writer. But when did you decide you wanted to turn that into a writing, like a career?
Well, I used to write when I was a kid. I used to make stories and plays and sell them to my parents. They were all romances. Um, but then when I graduated from college, I tried to write my first romance. It was like 500 pages long. I never take a creative writing class. I mean, it was crazy. There were like two shakes, and the heroine was blinded from camel spit, and she had a very sexy time in the desert. I never named the desert because, I didn't know anything about deserts. Anyway, this book got turned down everywhere. And then I went off to grad school. I went to Oxford in England. And when I came back and I went and I was going to graduate my PhD, my husband, who had married, was Italian. He didn't want to have another baby because I had student loan debt. So those of us who are Americans know that student loan debt kind of
Yes.
what comes along with getting a degree, especially a PhD. But he's Italian and the government pays for your education there. So I had to pay off those loans. So that's when I sat down. I was like, okay, I'm going to write a romance and someone's going to pay me for this. And they did. It was
Nice.
lovely. It was a couple $1,000s over my student loans. So,
Love that. Love that. So basically, it started off with paying off a debt, and
yep.
then it just became your passion.
Yeah, yeah, well, it was a passion before, but
Yeah.
with that first book that never sold, but it was when I actually focused on it.
So you actually maintained your career. Obviously, you went to school, you wanted to pursue your career. How do you balance your real life job alongside writing so prolifically? Because you do put out quite a bit of books and you have a demanding job too.
Right. So it's kind of been like one book a year mostly, for a long time, as you're saying. Uh, and I'm also a professor. I'm a Shakespeare professor. So the thing about being a Shakespeare professor is that you teach maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And it's brilliant for someone who's writing romance because my classrooms are full of people who are 19 and 20 and are often falling in love right in front of me. And, if I didn't have them, like, if you're writing romance, you really have to you have to know what the trends are in terms of relationships between people. So consent, for example, probably would have been a more far off concept for me, having been married a long time, but I saw it in the classroom. I saw it in teaching Hamlet. If you think about Hamlet's really mean to Ophelia, 10 years ago, they'd say, I don't like Hamlet. He's really nasty. Now they're like, he's a sexual harasser. he, should, he should go to jail. So, I mean, I see everything change. Those changes are what I need to have in my books in order for younger women to read my books and enjoy them, keep them bestsellers.
Yeah, I actually think that works out perfectly, which is kind of what I was hinting at with going on this journey with the evolution of the romance genre because it has changed so much. Obviously,
Yeah.
it started off with the bodice rippers, the 70s, the 80s, and like you said, consent was a big thing that was not discussed, was not really relevant, and now it is. But also trends and markets and things like that.
Yeah.
What are some of the changes you have seen throughout besides the point of consent, whether it was as a reader, obviously, but also writing in it? How did you manage through that? And what were some of those big points that you saw?
Well, I'll give you an example. Pirates are really hard to handle now. I wrote one novella called Once Upon a Pirate, and I loved it. It was so much fun. But, pirates exist to go yo ho ho and steal a woman and take her to sea. It's not exactly consent, it's more like kidnapping, just doesn't fly anymore, right? That girl's got to put on breeches and get on the boat by herself.
Yeah.
So I think some fun subgenres have gone. I'll say one other thing that I've noticed because I read a huge amount of romance, but I don't read historical romance because my voice is leaky and I don't want to go stealing, Sarah MacLean's a dear friend. I don't want to start stealing her books. So I read a lot of contemporary romance, and I am seeing a lot of beta heroes right now. Like he introduces himself. Tanya Hibbert's one of my favorites. She's got this great book where the guy introduces himself by bringing over a casserole, and that for me just wouldn't work. Like, that's not going to work. Like the guy bending over the hot oven, I want that. I would like my husband to learn how to bake. All he knows how to do is pasta, but it's not. So, trends happen that are going in a different direction than you're going. And that's really interesting to see too. That's one where I'm not going to be writing, um, my guy's not going to be baking cake.
I mean, I think that there's different trends for different people, right? I think that
Yep.
yes, the alpha hero has gone down a little bit, but there are still, alpha
Oh,
hero
sure.
demand. So we do still want to see a little bit of that in a probably in a scenario where it's easier to
Yeah.
tolerate from a modern sensitivity, I guess.
I'm just gonna say you see a lot of them, for example, in mobs romances,
Hmm.
mafia romances, monster romances. You
Yes.
know, if you've got a carapace and you're a bug, you can be totally alpha. You're like, why not?
Yes.
So yeah, so the same trends are there. It's just, and I will say, I think that's one reason why historical is kind of doing okay because if you're in the past, you can feel okay reading about an alpha duke
Right.
because the man who would make you uncomfortable now, and you'd be like, whoa, this guy, I don't think I want to live with him for my whole life. It's in the past. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
Well, actually, what is your opinion with this chatter online that I have seen that historical romance is actually on the decline and it's selling less? Do you
yeah,
see that
it's
happening
definitely
from?
selling less. There's no question about it. So, but I've been writing so long that it's gone up and down and
Right.
up and down, and it's been declared dead like 3 times in my career, which is about once in, once a decade, and so I'm like, "Okay, all right," but I think that to me, it looks like it may be coming back now, just because the world right now is really, really challenging
Yes.
for young people. I mean, my daughter-in-law and son are in line to be fired because they work for the State Department. I mean, these are not times when you necessarily want to be reading about the current moment.
Right.
So I think, like in the recession in 2008, people backed into historical romance. I'm
Mhm.
hoping that happens again.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. I think the
See what
things that
happens.
take you away from the current scenario are
Yeah.
important. All the historicals, paranormal monster, like you said. I think
Yeah.
leaning into what doesn't feel real right now, it's good.
Yeah, yeah. We have enough stress,
Yes.
right?
Oh my god.
We need to
Which
escape.
actually it's, something that I've been seeing is the fact that maybe publishers are not as big into giving those contracts, but I have seen a lot of historical romance authors do very well on,
Yeah,
indie publishing, Kindle Unlimited, so I do see what you're saying, that it's just shifting, especially
yeah.
for readers of where they go and look for it.
Well, I have to say, based on my experience, what happens is publishers say historical is dead, I'm not buying any, and then they're like, oh, wait, and then they desperately buy a lot.
Yes.
So, but I will say I also self-pubbed 3 books on Kindle Unlimited seduction series, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think they're beautiful books. And, as you say, they sell really well because some people are on Kindle Unlimited and they really would rather just spend that amount of money. And so I
Right.
want to make sure that they can have Eloisa books too.
Absolutely. So, with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about your new release, Hardly a Gentleman, which, I mean, we all love a Scottish hero. So, tell us a little bit about what this book is.
Well, so I was saying I was had to make a video for somebody and they were like, "Well, what's the trope?" Okay, so there's a trope because they have to get married halfway through, right? So there's that trope and then there's he falls first trope because my hero takes one look at the heroine's like, "I want to marry her." But I think I've created my own trope. My trope is Scottish laird fishes naked in the stream. Mind you, my publisher
That's
gave him some
perfect.
pants. In the book, he doesn't have pants on. But I think it's really fun. So what happens is my very proper young lady has to run away from London. She's ruined, and she gets in a carriage and goes to Scotland to a decrepit little castle to be the housekeeper because she's just like, I'm never going to marry. It's fine. I'm going to fill my castle full of books. And she walks around the castle, and there's a really gorgeous guy in the stream, Starkers, because he didn't want his kilt, the pleats to come undone. So, it makes sense to me. Like the kilts look like they're high maintenance.
They are.
So he's got it thrown over a bush and there he is, and he just catches a trout. It's
Love that.
funny. I think it's
Yeah.
one of my funniest books, really.
Yeah, I
So
think that's something I always really enjoy with your books is that they always have a little bit of humor too. So they're lighthearted and fun.
thank you. That's great. That's
Did you have
lovely.
any moments while you were writing this particular book that were maybe a little bit more challenging, or any fun tidbits that would have happened while you were reading or researching this book?
Well, I had to do a lot of research into Scotland and into fly fishing, but which is not something I know very much about because you just have to know enough, but what you say has to actually make sense. So
Yes.
So I learned about fly fishing, but also my heroine is a huge reader. So I ended up reading a lot of the books that, interestingly enough, Jane Austen was reading. So it's the romances that Jane Austen was reading. Her name actually appears on the subscription list for some of the books that are mentioned in here. And
Wow.
they're absolutely nuts. I mean, crazy. Like, we're talking rape practically on the page, stuff that I
Wow.
would not, I don't do anything where I think somebody's going to need therapy to get over it, which I include rape in that. But Jane Austen's contemporaries, not Jane, were just like out there, putting on boys' clothes, running all over the place, getting seduced by this guy, that guy, the next guy. So that was really interesting for me because as a scholar, I'm based in the Renaissance and Shakespeare. I don't go so much into Jane Austen. And
Yeah.
so it was interesting to see just how creative that period was for women authors that we don't pay attention to now.
Yeah, and that seems like something that maybe wouldn't make sense that that's what they would have been writing, especially for our views of the times. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like an interesting juxtaposition.
And they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so let's talk cover art because you already showed the beautiful cover,
Yeah.
but I think the covers have had also an evolution, same as the genre. They've come and gone with
Yeah.
different. We had the beautiful clinch covers that I wish would come
Yeah.
back, but they haven't made a comeback. We had also beautiful covers. Like one of my favorites of yours is A Kiss of Midnight with the beautiful romantic dress
Right.
flowing to the side. But I,
Yes.
I do think that there is a lack of the man chest covers lately. And
Mhm.
so it was nice to see that in your cover. How do you think covers have changed? What's your favorite style of cover? What do you gravitate towards?
Well, I mean, it's changed. It's like, what do I want to see? Like I had Wild and Love has got the guy with a drenched shirt.
Hmm.
And that was before the pandemic. So I could go to the signing and go to the photography. And it was really interesting to choose young women standing there squirting him with water. I wanted that. I based that on a on Pride and Prejudice, on Colin Firth coming out of the lake in Pride and Prejudice. Or I have the one that follows that. There's a guy in bed and he's naked from the waist up and he has these great sheets. And I sent them a picture of a sheet ad for a Brooklyn sheet. Actually, I was like, I want this. And they reproduced it. So you could do that right now. I feel like we're in a weird space with historicals because yes, we had dress porn, right, which is a huge porn. We had women with their heads cut off. We had guys who were naked. We had women turned away. I've been through all of those. I've never had a clinch because generally that signifies where you are in the publishing hierarchy.
Okay.
But here's what I'm wondering. You look at my early books; those were painted. There was a
Mhm.
guy at HarperCollins who actually painted them in oil,
Mm.
and we had stepbacks.
Yes.
And then the pandemic came. You stopped getting photography. Now we have AI. My prophecy is that we're going to go back. So I'm going to show you what I did. So I don't get step backs. Almost no one gets step backs
Yeah.
anymore. They don't do a real photo
Such a
shoot, whatever.
shame.
Yes. So I commissioned a step back
Oh,
from
I
a
love it.
lovely artist called Salma. You can find her on my website. And she made this picture
Oh, that's so
for Hardly
beautiful.
in Love. Yeah, which is that's here's my laird and here's
Mhm.
my little, obsessed by reading girl. And they're in the library, which is a very
Yes.
sexy scene. She chose it herself. And it's properly made with oil paints. She put the
Love that.
video on of her, she made several videos of her actually painting them.
Mhm.
And I think we may be going back to a time when it's going to be actual art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so anyone who orders my book from the Ripped Bodice, which of course
Mhm.
is a very fabulous romance bookstore. There's one in Brooklyn. Will get a actual book-sized copy of this in a little
Ooh,
envelope to keep it perfectly. Yes, character art, they're calling it.
love
But I
that.
call it, a step
It's
back.
step back. Yes, yes. And if
Yeah,
it's
so
the
it's
right
step back.
size, you just slip it in the book and you pretend like it's a step
You
back.
can, or you can keep it in the envelope and keep it beautiful, but it is a piece of real art.
Yes.
Salma is a true artist. And what I love about this is how tender it is,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Um,
beautiful, beautiful painting.
yeah,
It really
yeah, because
is.
we've come a long way from like a tender clinch. It
Yeah.
went even back in, I don't know, like the 80s, they started being like sexy clinches.
Mhm.
But way back when they were tender.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I think it's
Love
going.
that.
However, I will say I've had no luck getting my publisher to do an oil painting on my next book. So
Yeah, I think that they definitely probably don't wanna spend the money, but I do agree with you on where, like, that trend would be going as far as
yeah,
from a reader's perspective and what they want to see. So I
it's
think that they'll
fresh.
have to catch up
It's fresh and
with the
different, and we
market.
want something new
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I think for
So
sure that, yes. Okay, so do you have a character that you've written that you would relate more with? Whether it's a one that really vibes with your personality or one where you infused a particular something that happened to you or anything like that.
well, I have to say, if you don't put part of yourself in a book, it just doesn't fly.
Yeah.
So every heroine has something significant that happened in my life in their,
Yeah.
in their life, and it shapes their character. So you have, you know, sometimes it's not always in my life, like Viscount in Love, which is the first book in this series. The heroine is dyslexic.
Mhm.
And that was because one of my students proved to be dyslexic in his junior year. It never occurred to me. And I thought, what would it be like to be dyslexic in 1804? Everyone would say, you're stupid, which
Yeah.
is what they say about her. She's unmarriageable. She's stupid.
Yeah.
Right. So I took that and put it together with hard moments in my life in which intelligence has been questioned or whatever, but a lot of my heroines have part of me, part of my experience, and so I can't say there's one that's mostly me.
Yeah.
To be honest, it doesn't work that way. They all have to be me, not me, but they start little spark starts with me.
Yeah, love that. So we started talking about Hardly a Gentleman, and you mentioned tropes. What do you think is your interpretation of how you use tropes? I know that right now it's very popular to use them in marketing, and I know there are some authors that write for the tropes. So how do you interact with that concept of tropes right now? Is it just an afterthought, like I made my own trope kind of thing, or do you do take them into consideration?
I totally take them. I always have. I mean, I think that's one reason why I've had such a long career too, is that I read a lot of romance, as I
Mhm.
said, and I say, what tropes am I enjoying?
Yeah.
And there are certain tropes that I absolutely love. I'm some of them don't have like a name, but for example, I'm sure you can think of lots of examples of this, but like humiliated heroine, right? We all can think of books
Yes.
like that. That's a trope I love. I had a horrible time in high school, so I can put lots of real, feeling into that. Cinderella is another one I really love. Again, look at high school. Um, fairy godmother never came along, but the feeling is there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done a lot of those. I've rewritten a bunch of fairy tales, like When Beauty Tamed the Beast. Of course, those are all major tropes.
Mhm.
So rereading those, was really interesting. A Kiss at Midnight is, Cinderella. And so I've always, always, always used tropes. This entire series is called Accidental Brides. So book one and book two, they're both accidentally get
Yeah.
married. They don't want to get married, but they accidentally get married about halfway through the book. That allows me to talk about marriage, which is always really interesting.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's a big trope.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It absolutely is. Going back to your career, do you have any moments where you've had to really struggle with those two things or being taken seriously, especially because of how romance is viewed in
Oh, yeah.
society in general?
All right, I can tell you what happened today. All right. Today, I am, by the way, the vice president of the Authors Guild, which is 15,000 authors across America. And we have been given money by James Patterson to select novelists, right? And they're going to get between $30,000 and $50,000 maybe, and support from James Patterson. And so all my fellow judges are going to be 15 of them. And I just said at the end, I was like, look, I just want everyone to remember, because I'm the only genre fiction writer in this little Zoom screen, that that a lot of these people would be writing romancy or something fabulous, dragons. Let's remember that books come in all different shapes and sizes, and they don't have to be. Um, I didn't say that. I just said let's just remember. And a woman said, "Well, you can't really think that we would give the money to a romance as opposed to a book that might end world hunger." Just like, oh yeah. Tell me again what
Oh
book
my
that is.
god.
But I was just silent because I could have eviscerated her. I
Yeah.
don't think she had any idea that I've had, 35 bestsellers and she's
Right.
had, let's say, zero. So I could have just gone, but then I was like, okay, no, because it's happened so many times in my
Yeah.
life. I mean, so many times. So I managed to hold my tongue. But yeah, it's romance is constantly getting flagged in a misogynistic way. And interestingly enough, this woman, her claim to writing apparently came through feminist writing. So, but it is something where people just feel absolutely free to imply that women readers are stupid and that women readers choose not to face reality and that women writers are only out for money,
Yeah.
and they also often go for sex, put your dirtiest fantasies on paper. So that is a very, very dangerous little cluster there of misogyny that pretty much has a huge effect on the reputation of romance in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And actually, a trend that I have seen recently, mostly from women on the internet, is talking about the fact that there's a rise of anti intellectualism because of, let's say, the rise of book talk and books like Sarah J. Maas. And what they're
Yeah.
talking about is the romance. And
Yeah.
because romance is becoming so popular, then it's about that's going to make reading not so recognized as
Mhm.
a, literary
Yeah.
thing. And I
Right.
think that that is just so denigrating to
Yeah.
women and what we like.
I agree.
It's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you 100%. It's all I can tell you is that in a way you can't fight it. You just
No.
keep going, you just say, hey, this gives me joy. It's right at the moment, the world is hard, especially
Yeah.
with my son and his wife, employed as junior ambassador level, which is going to be so so but writing gives me joy. It
Yeah.
gives me tremendous joy. And in a way I consider that an act of resistance. And then, I get letter and I had one the other day and she said, I'm not doing well, right? My cancer has returned, but I'm reading all your books from beginning to end. And I was like, this is huge. This is
Yeah.
not a woman who wants to be looking at the world right now,
Yeah.
right? Whatever's happening with her cancer is clearly not good. And she is bearing herself in my books, and I'm completely honored to be there. And the work you're doing, like getting those books out and talking about them in an intelligent way, is so important to allow women like that to to say, hey, we're educated, here we are. We love these
Yes.
books.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And
thank
in
you.
fact, I also recently had someone send a message because they are going through something with taking care of their mother that's sick.
Oh,
And just having that solace of just being able to open a book that it's just going to give you comfort, whatever
yeah,
in whatever shape that comfort is coming. So I
right.
don't think that we should be judging how people are doing that. So yeah, that's hopefully that changes in the world, but I don't see that happening anytime
No,
soon.
but go you for fighting the tide,
Yeah.
and excellent.
That's all we can do. Yeah. So before we wrap up, I wanted to get some recommendations from you. I know you're, as an avid reader, what have you been reading and loving that you can share with us?
Okay. So I picked a variety of books because I'm not sure, I didn't want to go just romance or
Yes.
just historical, but I'm going to start with a fabulous historical romance. So
Oh,
this
love that book.
is Earl Crush, yes, by Alexandra Vasti. Um, for those of you who don't know it, these two characters have been writing these intense, fabulous letters to each other like for years. And she's an heiress. And finally she's like, you know what? He's not married. I'm going to get in a carriage and go up there and marry him. I'm going to ask him to marry him. And she does it, yay. She gets up there and he's like, who are you? I've never heard of you. It's a disaster. And when you're a romance writer, you're looking for the moment when the reader who knows how it's going to end is going to say, wow, this one is not going to end well, because we want to be surprised within
Yes.
it's just like a mystery. We want to not know who did it. We want that moment of like, whoa. So this book delivers in spades. I could not stop reading it. So another one. So this is Sonali Dev, who's also a fabulous, fabulous romance writer, and sort of going into women's
Yes.
fiction. There's something about Mira. Did you read this one?
No, I didn't read that one. I
Okay.
have read her books, but I haven't read that one.
It's one of those ones that you just read in one sitting, and it sort of veers into drama. So it's got a lot of, intense drama
Mhm.
that makes it hard to put down. So it's less of an escape than Earl Crush, but it is an escape, and it's just a wonderful book. I think everyone should read it and will probably love it. And then I'm going to give you a literary book that's got um it's it just came out, so unfortunately it's only in hardcover, but you can get it at the library. It's called Small Bomb at Dimperley by Lisa Evans, who's one of my favorite sort of literary writers. And it's romantic. Um, it's set in a country house, like, back in the 40s.
Mhm.
So enough of an escape that
Yeah.
we're escaping, yet really, really interesting, really fun to see the decrepit, what's happening to the aristocracy after World War II, when they've gone through rationing and like they're having to pick their own eggs. And it's really fascinating and fun to read. And it's kind of like P.D. Wodehouse this is getting compared to that a lot. So if you're someone who likes sort of touching, romantic, big books,
Mhm.
go for it.
I'm definitely going to pick up the Sonali Dev now. It's pushed me to it. I love her
Great,
writing.
great. Yeah, she's fantastic. So
Okay, so
good.
looking forward to future. What are your plans for next? What are you working on? Is there going to be another book in this series? Anything new?
I am writing a book right now about a heroine who is married to a 70-year-old man and goes up to Scotland to a haunted abbey.
Ooh.
Now, the husband is clearly not going to last that long because he can't, because there's a very bad-tempered, irascible solicitor in that abbey, along with a ghost or two. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. I will say at the same time, I'm also writing a book about a young woman who pretends to be an honorable young miss and goes to stay with two very eccentric old ladies, and there's a surgeon there, because they are actually doing surgery in Scotland, like noblemen were doing surgery. So
Oh,
that
wow.
I was in Edinburgh for one of the rare things, and I
Mhm.
went to the Edinburgh Surgery Museum, which is fabulous, and learned a lot. So I'm kind of trading off between those two right now, which is a lot of fun. I will say I also have a contemporary.
Ooh,
Um, yeah, because I wrote one before, Lizzie and Dante,
yes.
and this one
I
is
read that one
currently.
too.
Oh, did you?
It made
Oh,
me
thank
cry.
you. This one won't make you cry.
Okay,
That's
good.
great. No, it's not going to make you cry. It's about a young woman who's a professor because that's what I know best, right?
Yes.
She's a professor, and her father is a retired rock star who lives next to Oxford, which, by the way, John Lennon had an estate right near Oxford. And I
Ooh,
base it on that. And she always wanted to meet him. He doesn't even know she's alive. It was one of those things back in
yeah.
the day in a concert. So she gets a chance to do a trade with Oxford in a professor trade, and she goes and she meets him. And
Love that.
I think it's a tremendously fun book. She walks into his huge estate, and there is a bowl of DNA kits right there in the entry because he's got like 16 kids already.
Oh my
And they're
god.
like, "Oh, do you want to take one of these DNA kits?" And she's like, I think not. I think I've seen enough. Good enough. But of course, he looks her up, and then there's also a love story that I really actually love a lot. It's a great love story. So
Love that. Love that. We'll be looking forward to that for sure.
thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for saying that about Lizzie and Dante. I'm sorry it made you cry,
No, I
but
mean,
you
I
have to
love
see
books
it's
that
a
make
great
me
love
cry.
story.
It's a good thing. Yeah, loved it. Thank you so much for stopping by today
Thank
and
you.
for
Anytime.
everybody to go and get Hardly a Gentleman.
Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. Bye.
I hope you loved that chat with Eloisa James. Hardly a Gentleman is such a fun, heartwarming read, and if you're in the mood for a book that mixes steam, stubbornness, and some laughs, definitely go and grab it right now. We also got a peek behind the curtain into Eloisa's writing life, balancing her career as a professor and how real life students help keep her stories current, and that moment that really stuck with me when she shared how meaningful it is to hear from readers going through tough times and finding comfort in her stories. It's a powerful reminder that romance matters and that joy joy matters. Don't forget to check out the free series I've got going on Substack, where we talk about the evolution of the romance genre through the decades. Every week I'm diving into a different decade, books, tropes, authors, and more. I will leave a link in the show notes where you can find out more, and don't forget that you can subscribe for free and you'll get those delivered every week in your inbox. If you're tuning in from YouTube, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any content from us, and be sure that you are subscribed to our free Substack so you don't miss any content that we post across all of our platforms. That's all I have for you guys today. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, and we'll see you again in the next one. Bye!